What is up, everybody? Welcome back, MuseMe TV.
Greetings, everybody. How's it going?
Dude, we got Josh back in the studio. It's Josh.
Thank you for having me again.
Oh, man.
My brother from another Mexican mother.
Back in the studio, dude. I appreciate you coming.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate every time you reach out and tell me you want to have me on the podcast. I walk around all day like with my head too big to get into the doors. You know what I mean? So
that's dope. With that being said, though, there's been some fucking... Well, we were supposed to do this yesterday, too. So.
Yes.
But this whole week has just been intense, man.
For everything. And then also, too, it's odd to be able to say that in this year. You know, to say this week has specifically been weird.
Yeah.
Because this whole year's been weird, right?
Yeah, like so many different things coming out of nowhere.
Dude.
And it kind of seems like all at once, too, but...
It's all been very strange. And...
Within 6 months, at least.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is, too, that I've been seeing online is the people saying, oh, how much worse could it get? And then, boom, you know what I mean? Look, what we have here, what we have there. And at the same time, too, you know what I seen in just my kind of being online, just this kind of narrative being pushed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, you know, it's kind of hard. I think our last conversation, the end of our last podcast, you were talking about World War III, and I said World War III is going on right now in front of us on these screens. And then I think my point was further proven in the weeks after that last podcast that me and you had together, and it's going on in front of us. You know what I mean? It's dissemination of information, it's propaganda.
Right.
Where's it coming from? Who's it coming from? Who's
two
setting?
sides are fighting?
Yeah, who's coming with this and who's that, and who are the two sides that are? Who's really on these two sides? You know
because like the worst part about it too is that there's civil unrest here.
Yes,
and then there's still. We're not even thinking of the global aspect of all these problems that probably are happening right between, like, under. We just don't understand. And then so many changes and shit.
And the butterfly effect too.
Yeah.
Right. And what kind of effect is it going to have 4-5 years down the road, or even sooner? 18 months down the road. I think also too. I was telling you before. Everything's changing so rapidly because of technology. And again, here's another example of my argument. Again. It's changing so fast. Technology is just propelling us into the unknown faster than we want to.
Yeah.
And I think, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people are having a lot of issue with that too, because we're not ready to adapt. Like not Americans, but like human beings. It's hard for us to think we got to constantly be changing because the computer is so fast nowadays, and the computing power that is going on around us all the time. So fast.
Like they say, like our bandwidth isn't even like it's so much faster when things are going through just like the computer aspect. Like you type in a phrase, so many searches can come up. When you think about it, you think about that. You see the difference of time.
Yeah,
how fast this shit can be. Like
computing power between the human brain and the interface too. Just like Elon was talking, the interface is very slow between us and this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Which is. It's very interesting, you know what I mean, to hear somebody that smart talk about interfacing between the computer and ourselves as a priority.
Yeah, because we're only as fast as we can type.
Exactly.
Technically.
And then we're only as fast as we can search and then disseminate that information and put it into what we're trying to do. But like he was saying, if we can get that interface faster, then we can accomplish more ourselves as a human being.
Yeah.
But just to think, like mathematically and computing power-wise, the human brain isn't as complex as what we're going to create or what we've already created. And that's just phenomenal. That's amazing to think of.
Yeah, because we really, again, know very little even about the brain. It's so...
And the brain is one of the most complex things on this planet. So imagine we've created something with that's even more complex than itself.
Yeah.
Which is freaking bonkers to even imagine.
Because right now we're at a time where we could just freaking kind of like... fix everything. It's just with the way politics and like all that stuff gets played into it. We're just like, are we getting left behind in some things? Like they say that stupid thing too. Like aliens are just laughing at us because they see all the mistakes we're making. They're just like, oh man, they should be up here already. Or there's way more stuff that's going on there.
And I think too, a lot of times what I've noticed is people expect a lot out of the people that are running things. and without giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're also only human. You know? So, I mean, it's another human being, even though the person X, Y, or Z is running said office, or they're running said department of federal, whatever it might be. They're just a human being too.
Yeah. Until you get a robot to start doing it.
Exactly. Or a computer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it in all reality, you know what I mean? When we look to these governors for this guidance that they're supposed to give us as far as opening what's supposed to be closed and what's safe and not, of course there's a ton of room for criticism, because the people who are actually making those decisions are also humans. Yeah. They're just humans like me and you.
It's a human decision.
Yeah, has nothing to do with like them being some kind of intelligent superpower, and that's why they're in the political party or the political space that they're in.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with that. It's votes. We put them in there. All the people that voted put them in there, and they're just humans. I mean, there's a good example right here in Albuquerque right now. A weatherman.
Oh, yeah.
Just won a seat in the Senate, right?
So he did win? I'm not too sure if he won or not.
Well, he was killing it.
Oh, he probably high.
I think there was something to do with the absentee ballot counting that prevented him from calling it an official race last night. But I want to say I seen a victory lap, a victory like little speech. You know what I mean, from Mr. Ronchetti there. But as I say, you know, it just proves, I'm just trying to prove a point. Like, the guy who was telling us what was going to be on the weather is the guy who is going to be making decisions in our state's capital.
Like big decisions, yeah.
Yeah, and beyond, you know what I mean? And in Washington, they're going to make decisions and do things and make things happen. So when it comes down to it, we often forget these people are just people. They're also human beings. They're fallible. They're not perfect, and they also have their own way of looking and thinking about things, right?
Yeah.
They're not a 100% probably aligned with, most of their followers or most of the people who vote for them, but ultimately, like I said, they're just people.
Or even then, if they do, it's more of like a sided thing. Like, oh, he kind of does things or believes in things that I believe in. That's why I vote for him and stuff. Like, oh, he's a good person, or
exactly. And it might not have anything to do with
the actual political spectrum.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything that's going on.
And that's unfortunate, but that's just how people are. We vote with our hearts. A lot more people vote with their hearts than they do their minds.
I guess that's the beauty, right, of what we do.
And then also, too, ignorance is bliss, Who has the time nowadays to sit and really comb through everything and understand each one of these candidates, to the bone?
Some of false news, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, God. And then to do that every 2 years, Because every other year you have an election of some sort, correct?
Yeah, at least state.
Yeah, exactly. And every 4 years you got your federal.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry.
So yeah, that's crazy to think about, that those decisions as well hopefully impact in a positive way, because
and ultimately, you know what I mean, we've already seen through history that all these decisions that are made have consequences that are far further reaching than we could have imagined. So every decision that they make, they think, oh, this might happen. Then you got to get these speculators. Might happen. This might happen. And then they implement those things, and they start to see all this periphery stuff happening. And that's always where that's always the interesting part of any of these decisions that come out of Washington or your local government or your state government. It's always interesting to see how the American mind can take whatever law they write, and they can figure out a way to manipulate it to something else that we didn't even imagine.
Yeah.
And it happens every day.
To get written more intensely, or
exactly,
more
or
detailed.
Or just to skirt around what they were trying and to do something completely different, because now the wording is in law. Now we can skirt around and try to make this other thing happen.
Yeah.
Because now if you interpret this law like we are, and my lawyer I pay, if you can, the court can see our interpretation as, oh yeah, you're correct, and this being a law that was sent down from high, Now we can actually do this thing. And those things are often the weirdest consequences of laws that are made. And there's all kinds of examples of them. I wish I had a list of them right now, but there's tons of examples of weird shit that came out of odd laws.
Right, like laws with loopholes, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe, and it's not a loophole they ever considered, but it's a loophole they opened. You know what I mean? A lot of laws involve loopholes that nobody ever considered, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's oddball shit, dude. And then now with the protests, peaceful protests, and the rioters, those are two different things. But when we see them on the news, they put them so close together. In the same little 30-second span, they'll show us, 2-3 seconds of a peaceful protest.
Yeah,
2-3 seconds of a brick being thrown.
Yeah, and the way they say it too, a peaceful protest gone wrong.
And a lot of times if you actually go through, like I did with the Albuquerque protests, I looked into them. I take pictures, and I decided that I wasn't going to go down there and take pictures of any of it. You know what I mean? I wanted to go take pictures of the peaceful protest, but then again, also too, I know there's a lot of really, really good photographers here in Albuquerque that are covering that.
Okay.
But as far as the unpeaceful protest, I didn't want to go down there and take pictures of that. I kind of did. I actually contacted you. Hey, you want to go down there one night?
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said no. Let's, you know what I mean? It's not, and it was raining that night too.
Yeah.
But at the same time too, I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I don't want to show Albuquerque in that light, because that is one block of a city that's huge that involved, and it's just a handful of people in a city that is damn near close to 1 million people. So when you have 20, 50, 100 people, 200 people, whatever it is, causing havoc downtown in those 2 blocks, it looks really bad.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to put that on my Instagram or put that out there.
No, because
through my camera,
it feels like it's kind of like glamorizing it.
Yeah, and I didn't want to do that. And I said, also too, as a father of 2 small children and a husband, I'm like, what am I going to go do? I'm going to go run around like a freaking 19-year-old kid,
like a youngster.
You know what I mean? I'm like, that's not me. So not only did I not want to show Albuquerque in a bad light, but at the same time too, to get back to my original point, what we're seeing on the news, everybody sees it. They're putting in these peaceful protests, the videos of peaceful protests, and they're slamming them next to riots.
Yeah.
And it looks horrible. And then so to somebody who's paying only periphery attention or has a lot of things going on like the normal American, to them it looks awful, man. It looks crazy.
Yeah, what's going on? Or I could just imagine what other countries are thinking as well too. Like,
yeah,
there's probably so much civil unrest, or
and to the uneducated, they might go to bed thinking that outside of our door tonight that there's people going door to door and breaking shit and taking, and it's nothing like that. 2 blocks of one city that's probably 30 square miles or something like that. That's a big, we've got, if you include everything, Berlin to freaking Santa Fe, it's huge, this whole area. There's a lot of freaking people that encompass this whole area. And to have one riot in a 2-block span or 4-block span or 5-block span, whatever that was, go haywire and be broadcast out to America as look what Albuquerque's doing. You know what I mean? As more, it made it seem more than it actually was. And I'm not saying it wasn't, because it was significant. The riots here were very significant. But thankfully, they weren't more significant than they were.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be more of, again, the peaceful protest.
Which from what I learned later, the peaceful protest went on.
Did happen.
Dispersed. And then a few hours later, or even an hour or 2 later, here comes this next wave of people, and those people ended up being the rioters who there's landmarks that have been around people for hundreds of years, you know what I mean? And these kids are sitting there smashing it with the skateboard. That's another thing that I couldn't bring myself to go down there, because I would want to intervene. There's a kid. That kid is 15 pounds soaking wet, and he's swinging a skateboard. My instinct, when he's swinging a skateboard at a freaking 120-year-old building or 200-year-old building, you're like, dude, let me see that skateboard. Yeah. I would want to intervene almost just by being me.
Knowing the ramifications and all the bad stuff.
And knowing, hey, he broke one window. If I stop him now, he's not going to break those other 10.
Yeah.
In my mind, thinking that's probably a little ignorant. But then I would also intervene. I'd almost put myself in there, and we've seen people doing it. We've seen people intervening. And then later on that night, when they're gone, when the interveners are not there to intervene, then everything goes haywire, almost even worse than if nobody intervened, is a theory. Yeah. I'm not saying that's truth, but ultimately, you can't sit there and risk life and limb to protect a brick and mortar. And I hate to say that when so many people have lost. You know what I mean? But luckily, we all walked, those people all walked away with their lives. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who did not walk away with their lives in these situations. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you have to look at what happened here in Albuquerque and in a lot of places, I think is
trying to show that there was injustices.
Yeah, it's not for nothing. It's not, I understand a lot of people are saying, the riot, there's no place for rioting. But then there's also people who feel that if there is no rioting, that there wouldn't be enough of a wave of focus on this cause. So when you take it with that grain of salt, you can almost see where these rioters are coming from. Then on top of those people, you have these crazy people who just want to go out and GTA 5 it, dude.
Yeah.
And smash some shit.
Spray paint.
They want to freaking steal a damn mail truck and then pull it into the middle of the street, do donuts, turn it over, set it on fire. You know what I mean? Just like we did on the video games since we were 15 and 16 years old. You know what I'm saying? So when I see that stuff, it doesn't surprise me.
Okay, yeah, because it's not crazy to say that it is influenced by games and stuff like that. Yeah. But it is just like, just one of those things. Just like,
Well, it doesn't surprise me when I see what's happening. But I also look at it and I know that in those rioters, there's people who in their heart feel they're doing something good. And then in that same group of rioters who are fucking shit up are people who just go out there for pure anarchy, just to take advantage of the situation, because how many times am I going to be able to light the target on fire?
All right.
And I think that's the unfortunate part.
It's the hardest part to deal with.
Yeah, and also too, the way, I don't know if there's even if there's a more peaceful way to riot. You know what I mean? But the riots,
it's supposed to be known as a peaceful protest.
It's a peaceful protest, but
protest. But riot sounds so harsh. It sounds like
peaceful protests and riots are two different things, though.
Yeah,
you got to be honest with you. We got to be honest with ourselves. A peaceful protest, we've seen those, and we also seen rioting.
Yeah,
and those two people are different people. And then also, if you go to those peaceful protests, you can actually draw lines and figure out what's their motivation between all these different people, and then also to the rioters. What's the real motivation behind this person rioting versus this person rioting? Because in this gentleman's heart, he's rioting so that there's more of a focus on the situation. This guy's just coming out because he wants to throw a freaking skateboard through a cop's window.
Yeah, because he's been inside this whole time.
Exactly. And that's what I think is happening is a lot of people are coming through this COVID thing, having to be isolated, and then all of a sudden on TV, there's a big group of fucking people, and they look like they're having a crazy time out there, and we might as well just go look. And that look turns into X. It goes from X to Y. Next thing you know, that same dude who just came to look is throwing a brick through something because it's opportunity. It's just oddball shit, man. And I think a lot of it is that. I think a lot of it is people who had no intention of being involved in this in any way, who, because of the lure, are being involved in it.
Yeah. Because it's kind of hard to sing now. Like, there's so many things we could think of. Like, what do we do now, though? Like, because we still, in my opinion, still have an injustice with the police department. Again, there's so many police out there, but a handful of them give everyone a bad name.
Just like a car salesman. You know what I mean? Car salesmen probably have a bigger, a larger margin of people that the public hate. But just like any job, there's going to be people who in that job people love and in that job people hate. And there's going to be good people and bad people. You know what I mean? And those lines are probably pretty similar. But as far as it goes, the amount of law enforcement and civilian people who actually work with law enforcement, the amount of people that are involved in those departments is just so mass, dude. It's so extensive. There's so many people that work in law enforcement and derive their income from law enforcement. To say that every one of those people is bad is also just as ignorant as the racism itself. You know, you can't with a straight face look in your mirror and say all those cops are bad.
Yeah.
Because we're even seeing very small representation of this example, but cops that are sitting there and kneeling in solidarity and stuff like that. And that's just one action.
Marching with the protest.
But a lot of those actions come from a place that police officer's always been. You know, there was a post, that place of that police officer has always been probably a kind police officer. There was a post recently that this one gentleman, he's been on the police force for 25 years. He's pulled over some kind of ungodly number of people and has never had one single complaint. You know what I mean? And this is a guy who's been on the force for 25 years doing the same exact thing and has zero complaints. That I know there's two extremes. There's one extreme here, one extreme there. But at the same time, both extremes have to give you a good window of what we're looking at. You know, you got this guy over here, 25 years, nothing. You got this other guy over here,
2 years in,
2 years, and he's 25 complaints deep.
Yeah.
And if you look at those two matrices, everything in between is all the people who are either not doing bad or maybe fucked up a couple times, or there's people who have done so much good that they're not even getting recognized for all the volunteer work and all the good that they're doing in the community, but they still do it.
Yeah.
And there's everybody in between. So to say cops are bad isn't necessarily being honest with yourself or with anybody else who might be listening to you.
Yep.
Comments, please.
Gas Mask says, preach it. He says, preach it. Thanks for joining, man.
No, I appreciate it, Gas Mask. And I'm not even trying to preach. I think the only thing I'm doing, Gas Mask, is I'm just saying some of the things that need to be said more. And that's what I've been trying to do with just people when I talk to them, or even in this podcast or on my Instagram, just trying to tell people the positiveness that's still out there in the world. You know, there's still a ton of it. Because if you go to the ink ward at the hospital right today, 20 minutes ago, there was a baby who was born. Those people are having the best day of their life amongst everything else. So whenever we look at what's going on in the world, we also have to remember what's not being shown to us right in front of us.
Yeah.
We can't sit there and look at every baby being born because that's absurd. Nobody wants a camera when their baby's being born, much less thousands of them every day. But if we could see that, imagine the effect it would have on people's minds.
Because you kind of can already see, like, you could just imagine, like, there's, you know, the counter online where you see, like, people being born every second and stuff. You just imagine the feeling people get because, like, you've experienced it before, or maybe you've felt somebody that's known somebody that's felt it before.
Or you've simply seen the joy of peripherally of a family that you've never met, and the joy they have when they're in that waiting room and the dad comes out and says, "It's a boy." And you can just witness the amount of love and care in that one group. You know what I mean? And that's just one example. Yeah. And if we could see it and imagine the effect it would have on people, but we can't. What we can see every minute of every day is somebody getting hit in the head and dying. We can go online and we could see people dying, and then and not only that, but they're
people breaking stuff,
throwing shit through windows, and they're not only can we see it, but they're putting it out there. They're putting it out there for us to consume. Not only are they putting it out there, they're putting it out there in high quantity. It's a lot of window breaking, smashing of windows, throwing of this and throwing of rocks and police and riot gear. And we consume this for 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day.
There's a watch on. There's like news watch and stuff all the time.
We're looking at this, and there we go. We're seeing what is happening wrong in the world. We're looking here. We're seeing what's wrong in the world.
Dennis, are you here?
I thought I heard somebody too, huh? You can go check, dude. I'll keep ranting. Go.
I don't think he's here.
I thought I heard something. Maybe it was your dog.
It's cool.
Anyway, I could have swore I heard something too.
Yeah.
Podcast studio's getting invaded.
I know, right? That shit's so weird.
They came to kill us because we're talking too much truth.
Dude, that's the worst part about all this, though, is that even if you go out there and just try to mention a little bit of the aspects, like you were saying, about how there isn't so much bad in everything. Like, I know the protest is going out there, but not, hopefully the glamorization of the rioting or the destruction is not the reason why we're out there. Like, again, the handful, the shitty parts. I love this whole aspect of it because it's just like yin and yang.
Yep,
we're doing it to go help, but then inside of there's those bad apples and stuff.
You can never have the good without having the opposite of the bad somewhere, right? Somewhere, and I think it's all what we're seeing is so much chaos, and then I think a big representation of the chaos that we're seeing is that fact that there's both aspects being shown to us at the same fucking time. It is yin and fucking yang right in front of us, and a lot of us can't decipher where that fucking line is.
Yeah.
A lot of us cannot decipher it. So when we see for 3 seconds a fucking brick going through the window, and then 3 more seconds of somebody holding up their fucking fist, and then 3 more seconds of a fucking skateboard going through a window, and then 3 more seconds of people praying together, how in the fuck, as a human being,
is all that related?
Are we supposed to figure out what you're fucking with us with? Because the media is doing exactly that. They're taking all these images and they're throwing them together in a blender to create advertising space between their production pieces. And that's all it is. These news companies that we call our information sources are nothing but advertising companies. They have been nothing but since print newspaper was there for information, yes, but their main revenue source, if it wasn't government funding, has always been advertising forever and ever, since before your grandparents and my grandparents were born, since the printing press was getting made. At some point, it went from printing press to disseminate to give you information, to share knowledge. That printing press was made for sharing knowledge. That printing press went from sharing knowledge to having a way to pay for the sharing of knowledge.
Manipulate it.
And then that money aspect of it manipulates the word, the message, and then you come all the way 120 years to where we are now. And you have these companies that we're supposed to believe are the same as they were when they were in the 50s and in the 60s, and they're not anymore. We're not in the 60s anymore. Neither is these news companies. And when I say company, I mean company, because it's not some group of volunteers who came together to bring you the best knowledge for your mind. News companies are there to create as much footage of craziness as they can so that they can throw that on a loop and sell you Cialis in between. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the world we live in. And I'm bringing it back around to the big ass loop of that's why in the beginning I was saying that, the manipulation and what we're fed and how much of it we consume. So with these advertising companies, They're putting out this stuff. We're consuming it all day. All of a sudden, our entire worlds and our conversations and every interaction you have with everybody else involves what you've seen on TV and what I've seen on TV. And then we bring it to the table and we sit here and we conversate about it over dinner, over lunch at work.
Any aspect.
Whenever we meet somebody, and then all of a sudden it kind of metastasizes, kind of like cancer. It grows because we're always talking about it, because it's always in front of us, because that's what they want. Because if it's always in front of us, the first thing we're going to do when we get home after work is we're going to go consume more of their advertising. I'm sorry, I mean news. You get my drift?
Yeah.
It's just the way it is, man. And it's not necessarily unfortunate that that's how they make money, because everybody's got their hustle.
Yeah, because think of it this way too, the protest that happened yesterday on Instagram, did you see that?
No.
Like the whole blackout screens?
Yes.
Where everything was going through there and stuff. That, if not, was still a marketing tactic that they could take advantage of.
Yes.
No matter how important it was, they were trying.
Boom, like I said, there's these unintentional consequences. Again, like I said, I'm going to bring it back around to the front. There's always unintentional consequences to all these great ideas. Let's send somebody into space. Great idea. Rocket blows up. We killed a teacher. Fuck. You know what I mean? Do this happens. Fuck. We didn't intend for that to happen. We just were trying to do this good thing. And it's not it's not necessarily one person's fault, because we like to blame lawmaker X or lawmaker Y. But when it comes down to it, all these people have had to put the time into researching and creating this law that made it into a law. And then now look at these people manipulating it. And so it's all convoluted. But at the same time, too, that's what we do. That's who we are. We're America, man. It's wild.
Yeah, because we do stuff that other countries can't even imagine that we do.
And just that statement, write that down for a second. We do things that other countries can't imagine doing. And we've done that for 200 fucking years. So we went from 0, 200 years later, this is where we're at. We're an experiment in democracy. And that's the best way to describe it, because we're not necessarily something that has been proven for thousands of years to work. This is something that we came up with, and I say we as an American, because me and you are both Americans, no matter what our Mexican descent tells us. We're Americans today, me and you. We pay taxes almost more than some of these other people that we might know, and me and you we pay. We're people who are using our income in the community. We're people who put, we're money makers. So when it comes down to it, our tax money goes to this, and this, and this, and it's amazing how what we do as taxpayers funds all this, and all this creates this consequence, and this consequence creates a reality that is really wild out in front of us. And I think, like I said before, it gets disseminated and it gets filtered down into these little pockets of 15 seconds where it's just frightening to watch.
Yeah, because then again, in those 15 seconds, you still get both sides, but it's so fast and so quick that you don't know what it is.
And it's never 7.5 seconds of one and 7.5 seconds of the other, so that you can sit there and look at it as two parts. It's always just jumbled together, dude, and it's horrible. It's modern media.
Yeah, manipulation. There's so many words I'm just thinking.
Propaganda is one of the words I like to use, because propaganda is one of the oldest fucking tools that they've used. And propaganda wasn't just used for the enemy. Propaganda has been in history used against people to create an outcome that we want. If I'm a person who wants this outcome and I tell people this, I can create this outcome a little bit easier. And I think a lot of people in power do that often. Not only in the government, but also in celebrity. We see a lot of celebrities manipulate it, and they say, look at this. This is this way. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, it is. I'm going to go spend my money on that. And then they do, and they manipulate us that way. And you got to imagine, they're a celebrity. But we also give celebrity status to all these politicians and all these decision makers. And they say, hey, look, it's like that. And we're like, oh, yeah, let's spend our money on that. Yay. You get my drift? And so just like we give We invest the time into a celebrity. We also invest time into those politicians, and we need to stop doing both.
Yeah.
Because we spend too much. We invest too much in both of those things.
More like finding ourselves and stuff.
Oh man.
Innerness, inner self. Literally, like too much like worrying about what's going on the other side or what's going on out there, or like.
And then all of a sudden, a decade goes by and you don't even know who you are anymore. That's a danger for people who are listening. As somebody who's probably older than most of these people listening and older than yourself, take my advice, guys. Don't live your life worrying about what everything else is going on. Find yourself. Find what you enjoy. I see you playing guitar all the time. Why?
Because it's just something I like.
You like it. You are successful enough in your own well-being and successfully healthy enough to know that this is something I like, and I'm going to continue doing it for 15 years till the point where you can sit there and upside down backwards freaking play the guitar. So everybody needs to go out there and do the same. They need to stop absorbing this and make sure they absorb something better, no matter what it is.
This is like a little blueprint or a little idea that gives way to like there's more to do, more to enjoy.
And also too, the news can be sometimes okay. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not going to say it's bad.
Independent media.
But at the same time too, you gotta just like everything, you can't consume a bunch of one thing because then it becomes bad. We sit here and watch a 24-hour news cycle. Some people, I'm guilty of it too, will leave it on in the middle of the night so they can wake up and, let's see what's going on in the riots right now, because they know it's live. And then at the same time too, if you woke up in the middle of the night and ate bad food, it's bad for you. It'll physically start to show. When you do the same thing with your mind, it'll physically start to show also. You know what I mean? You'll start to create a world for yourself, which will physically become who you are, and you'll start to lose yourself in the freaking media. I've seen people do it all the time, man.
Always worrying about what's going on, like, oh shit.
Did you hear about Libya? And I get it. We need people to worry about it, but some people need to worry about themselves before they go around worrying about other places. Clean your freaking house before you go over there and try to clean
the streets.
I didn't want to say streets because it invoked a vision of people sweeping up glass recently, and I don't want to invoke that. But don't try to go clean the world's problems before you clean your own and your own home.
Yeah.
Make sure you're solid, people. You know what I mean? Make sure you got your things in order before you go try to put everybody else's stuff in order. If you better help yourself, you can better help others.
Yeah, because I think everybody kind of has like something that they can work on.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I mean, we've all got to-do lists that we've been wanting to do or trying to things that we want to accomplish. Start with the small stuff, man. Start with the small stuff and do it, because you didn't just day one have this and this and this and this and all the stuff that makes this podcast that we're on possible today. You didn't have that in one day. You didn't have that in 1 hour. It took you how long to put this stuff together? I'm not even asking you to give me a number.
No, but
because it did take you a decent amount of time, and because of that, you invested your time. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. You know what I mean? There's none of these things are going to happen right away, but the less media that is negative you intake, the better it is for all of us, your family and yourself and everybody else you interact with. And maybe you can start as a person who decide to limit their media, start suggesting that to others, and maybe somebody will listen. You know what I mean? And maybe you can be the pillar in somebody else's life that says, hey, ease up on CNN, bro.
Yeah, or have a broader spectrum on something.
Leave Fox for a minute, you know what I mean? Dog, let's go fucking run around in the park let's go cruising or something. I don't know. You get my drift, though.
Yeah.
You get my drift.
Just more interaction or more of something else that isn't repetitive either. Yeah. I honestly feel like you shouldn't really get stuck in a loop either. Mm-hmm. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, and then all of a sudden it just becomes kind of mindless, and you're just kind of...
And it becomes who you are, and some people are trapped in that. They're trapped in an identity.
In the mindless cycle. Because, I mean, you can still grow off of stuff like that. But
and when you say mindless, there's an actual word for it. It's called subconscious. In our subconscious, we live in this X world. But guess what, folks? not only is there an X, but there's a Y and there's a Z, but you're not opening your eyes enough to go check out all those other opportunities, and you might be bottlenecking your own opportunities by just being stuck in this representation that you've been sold commercially, because that's what this whole world has come to. It's consumerism 101, every day, every minute, and it's in our pocket. Consumer. Look at, there's a little symbol. There's apps on here that can get me all kinds of stuff. You know, there's food and water and clothing and everything I might need, a home and a vehicle, I can get off of this thing.
Is that a burden though?
But with that comes the advertising, all the stuff that floods at it.
The negative and the positive.
So just like we were saying a little bit ago, the upload speed, you know, the phone can throw us more advertising than we can actually upload. So the phone is throwing so much at us, so we're not even catching half of it. Imagine if we were catching all the stuff that the phone was. Because when we scroll, we don't catch all the ads. Yeah. Imagine if we catch every 100% of what they wanted us to see, every ad that we get thrown in front of us on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, at that point, it could just be what they actually wanted us to see. Like, even as we scrolled.
So
priorities of friends, like, oh, you obviously talk to this friend more than this friend. So
that's
their stuff
exactly what happens with the algorithm. You and I both know this. That's exactly what happens with the algorithm. The algorithm was written on a board, and it works exactly that way. And they've not only had the original algorithm, they have new and updated, improved algorithms that streamline advertising better and faster to your heart.
I remember when they first like introduced tagging people with like you having to type it in and stuff. Like if we took a picture together, posted it on Facebook, it would automatically know that it's you, and it just say like, don't you want to tag him in it?
Yes.
That's like, again, the improvement of being able to recognize what we want or what they need to feed us and stuff.
And that's just what they're showing us. They're showing us, hey, look what we can do with the technology. Look, it's you and him. But ultimately, that's just the tip of the iceberg of all this technology that's going on. You're just seeing these little toppers, and in all reality, there's this whole mechanism that is bringing you advertising so efficiently that they can go back to their vendors and say, we can get it to them faster, better, and you can get more purchases on your product.
Put some more money in it while we invest in this, and obviously you'll get more of a revenue because your ads are buying shit.
There's a reason that Google is what it is today.
Any of those companies, Amazon, fucking, oh my
but
God.
The search company alone, you know what I mean, and what they do and how they work, their manipulation, how their business is based on that search, and those searches equal advertising to you and direct marketing. You know, if you're into RC vehicles, if you're into RC little race cars, and that's your thing, your Instagram feed will be ad after ad after ad of tires, of little motors, of upgraded batteries,
professional ones, people that have done them for all kinds.
If you're into classic soda cans, boom, your feed will be full of classic soda cans, and the efficiency of it today is better than it's ever been. You got to imagine, we're so used to defending ourselves from 2012 YouTube that we don't realize that YouTube today is far more dangerous.
Yeah, anything, because right now, they even say with all of what we just spoken right now, what's not to say you'll see an ad of classic cans.
Exactly.
Just because of what we said.
RC vehicles. Boom. I bet I could pop open my Instagram and there'll be some RC vehicles.
That's a scary thought.
I had a phone that had a broken camera, and it was weird because it made an audible sound whenever the camera was activated. When I would turn on the camera, it would go because it was busted so bad, okay? There would be some apps that I would turn on that had nothing to do with the camera, but because it was physically damaged, every time it turned on, it made an audible noise. It was very strange to turn on apps and hear that noise, knowing that the camera was being turned on an app that didn't need a camera turned on.
Yeah.
That was the strangest thing I've ever noticed. And for 99.99999% of people, when that camera's on, they have no idea. But the only reason I knew is because it made an audible freaking noise.
Yeah.
It's wild.
See, right now, dude, they're just watching, dude.
They're
that's
watching.
That's all they do is just take a nice fucking...
Hide. They can't see us. Anyway.
Gas Mask, thank you for tuning in. He was just a bunch of stuff. Like, people are drama addicts. It's so cyberpunk the way things are going.
Yeah.
So they will ask us to jack in for a better experience. What is it? The movie Surrogates comes to mind.
Surrogates.
Yeah.
I have to check it out. I appreciate you, Gas Mask. Thanks for checking in. I'm sorry, Gas Mask, that I go on these rants, and I try to stop to hear what you guys are saying too, because I appreciate the comments and I really like the interaction.
Yeah, we just get look.
There's a lot of smart people out there.
There's dude. The world is so intriguing that you should be able to like learn or be able to observe in a way that you'll get an experience out of it.
Yeah,
like out of everybody, anything that you do.
And for the intelligent people, that's what they're doing. You know what I mean? I think a lot of intelligent people are doing that.
Yeah.
They're deriving themselves from so many different places now that you get these crazy eclectic people nowadays, more so I think than you ever have. We had eclectic in the 80s. We had eclectic in the 90s. We had eclectic in the 2010s. Now, with this last decade and going into this next decade, I think it's just people are getting more unique because they have a larger pool to pull from. There's so much more cyberpunk, like Homeboy was saying.
Yeah.
Like Gas Max was saying, he's right. Cyberpunk is the perfect word for it because that's exactly what it is. It's punk thrown through the cyber filter and in 2020. And that's what we're seeing.
That's what we're coming across into.
That's what we're seeing, man. I think we're seeing the physical manifestation of all this crazy computer and everything else put into a blender. And this is what we get.
Dang, that's kind of crazy to think about because just to think it's not going to get a little bit easier. It's just going to get more of like a rough housing of like what we could expect. Like we don't know what's coming up to the point where technology is going to be. Maybe there is human interaction like we're doing now, but we do it. Well, you kind of can, but in the comfort of your own home, where you never have to really go out and stuff anymore.
Which is scary because we're not indoor creatures. You know, we're not moles. You know, we're not moles. Moles live underground because that's where they're meant to live, you know. Their eyesight isn't good and all that good stuff. We're not meant to live underground. You know, my ancestors lived on grassy plains in hide-covered sticks with a fire next to them.
Yeah.
That's where we're meant to be, a lot of us. A lot of us came from the wilderness. A lot of us came from caves and shit. You know, if you boil it down to where we're from, we came from, like I said, my ancestors, the Native American people. It's proven. We came from the plains. You know, Native Americans, they came from the plains. They came from the desert Southwest. We're meant to be outside. So now that we're being forced to stay inside, it is so far foreign. It is the most foreign thing to our being that you see people doing the exact opposite and rushing out to get to somewhere. Rushing out to get to something. Going somewhere, making sure they get there.
Yeah.
You know, making sure they're out in the sun. Even more so than before.
Yeah, getting more of the experience or stuff that's happening out there.
It's weird, man. It's definitely, it's another one of those, to bring it full circle, it's another unexpected consequence of what has happened.
I'm going to let this dog out. She's looking at me like she really wants to go out.
Oh, please.
That's just in case somebody else comments. You can say whatever you want. Right?
Dope. Look at that. So, people are drama addicts. So, at Jack in Nevada for a better experience. Oh, man. Yes, chat with me. I will. Preach it. I appreciate that, man. I'm not trying to preach. It's just what goes through my mind all the time, like daily. I'm at work and I'm doing my thing and I just have to kind of like, I use it. I'm not just telling you these things because I'm trying to be cool on a podcast. I'm telling you these things because that's how I've been dealing with it. I've been dealing with all this information by reminding myself constantly that what I'm watching is one entity that might have a vested interest in selling us something. And when I say selling us something, it's not just X or Y or Z that they might even be putting in front of us, but it might be an entire lifestyle. Right? The message that they're putting in front of us might not be just a product, but it might be a lifestyle.
Yeah.
They might be influencing us to the nth degree. We're seeing one ad and we're thinking, oh, that one ad is manipulating us in this way. And then we see another ad and think the same thing. But if you really look at it, all these ads put together sell us a lifestyle that they're trying to sell us.
Yeah, because think of it this way, too. You get 2 ads. Which one's better for you and which one's not?
Yeah. And then also, too, the ads are based on demographics, right?
Yeah.
Because they say 18 to 45-year-old men are watching you at this point. And 54 to 65-year-old people are watching you at that point. And those ads are targeted to those people at those different times of day. And they're just selling everybody a lifestyle,
Gas Mask is like, what woke you up and who is your favorite guru now?
What woke me up, man? I think what woke me up...
You've been woke since the beginning.
No, I think what woke me up is where me and you both came from. We've seen so much dichotomy at such a young age, coming from such a deprived area. Seeing the fact that we could live this way and then go across the town and see people living a completely other way, and to feel that the way we're living was wrong, and to see that at such a young age, I think that's what wakes you up. You know what I mean? And then also, too, I've always been a naysayer. Gas Mask, I think I've always been such a stubborn fucker that I don't want to take what I see on TV for what it is.
Yeah, you have to take it with a grain of salt.
And right now, I think it's trickled down from. Well, I was always a disciple of Opie and Anthony. Like, I always loved Opie and Anthony, and I don't know if those people or Gas Mask or anybody who's listening right now knows who they are. But from Opie and Anthony spawned Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has always been my dog, and I listen to him a lot. And from there, it went down to Duncan Trussell, and it sparked off of Duncan Trussell, and back to Rogan, to Tripoli and Bravo, and all these guys that we all know, Eddie Bravo, Sam Tripoli, and Duncan Trussell, and all these guys who, they bring such a different perspective that I think those are my guys, Gas Mask. To answer your question, it's not like one person right now. I think it's a ton of different people. It's a ton of different people that luckily we can all listen to pretty regularly. Because before, we didn't have the opportunity. If you go back to the Roman days, they didn't have the opportunity to get this information the way we do today.
Yeah.
They had to rely on what was given to them as far as information. The rest of it was hearsay. We didn't have the ability to take this device, put this other device in my ear, and listen to these people who have these alternative ideas. And I think that within itself is one of the most fortunate things that we have right now when it comes to this. Even though there's bad, there's the yin, there's the yang, and there's good and bad to this computer. There's good and bad to every device and all the stuff that we're getting out of all this.
Anything, there's the equal and bad balance to it all.
So the good is the information that I might get that helps me be quote unquote woke. You know what I mean? Or whatever it might be, that, the word that Gas Mask used to describe what I'm doing or how I'm acting. But in all reality, it's just me figuring out for myself how to find some solace in this using those people.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing that came out of this too.
It's very Gas Mask says it's very important to be skeptical these days.
Amen, dude.
And that's true, because even as we go along through learning new stuff about everything, the human mind, nature, space, these are all new developments that we come through, and we just has to kind of rewrite a little of what we know.
Yep. And like you said, rewrite. And skeptical. Those are good. All rewrite and skeptical. We can't be so set in what we know that we're not going to be skeptical, and not willing, after we pull out that skepticism, to rewrite what we've learned and what we felt was exactly what it was. And I think having an open mind will help you not only be skeptical, but it also will help you when you have to rewrite, because sometimes it takes a lot of humility to say, hey, when I believed that, it was ignorant because now I learned this, but going forward, I'll try not to be so susceptible to X. But again, we're all human.
I know more. Yeah.
Yeah.
You end up knowing
And it's
more.
great to be skeptical. It's amazing to be skeptical.
And you shouldn't never really forget or not want to take judgment on other ideas and stuff, because you'll never know if it is, what it is. Or we learn from them in other aspects. Like, again, I know it's bad for murder and stuff, but then we start learning about why they did it and stuff. That's why that's what comes across from all this stuff.
Yeah, it's always good to question, and that's why we have the systems we have, I think, set in place, because it's our nature to not just say this is X, but to go through and figure out what it is that is actually the cause to this happening. And I think that's where we are as human beings. It sets us apart. We figure it out, and then that way we can learn from it and go forward. And we've learned from so many different things that now that we're going forward, it's at such a rapid pace because we have so much momentum from all this learning and all this innovation. And innovation and learning momentum has just propelled us so fast into the future.
Yeah, I mean,
that we're not ready for it. We don't know what's happening. None of us know what's happening. We all look at and that's why it's unfortunate, because we don't know what's happening. Excuse me, I'm getting like a little heated, but we don't know what's happening. So what we do is we attempt, like I'm bringing this full circle again, we attempt to figure out and grasp what's happening. So we go for the news because that has some information. It might not be the best or the most accurate, but unfortunately, that's all we got.
That's what we take.
So we rush to it and we grab those, and then we're like, and then half of it's not what it's supposed to be, and we're interpreting it wrong, and it's just getting crazy.
Just like everything else, you have to kind of take the work to go find news sources or independent stuff, like where it's like, saying, what's going on out there.
Like you're saying, independent journalism.
It's crazy, like just being, and that's true of everything though. Like you just have to put in the work, just to get something done.
Yeah.
Just like that. If you really just go for the basics of like, oh, I'm just going to go to basic news and stuff, obviously you're going to get what is like there, not anything really in depth, nothing that's really what needs to be said.
And every once in a great while, you'll find a tidbit of information inside of what you're reading that is truth. And then you'll be able to go take that to somewhere else and figure out, oh, well, at least they had this a little bit right. But the unfortunate part is every day we're supposed to go through all this stuff all the media that we take in, and we're supposed to somehow extract what's true. Like, how the fuck are we supposed to know what's true and what's not? Half the time I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I bet this has to be fake.
Yeah, even with like little videos where you're like, oh, that's so cool, and then you find out, oh yeah, it was fake, and just like, what? Dang,
they filmed it upside down and then edited it backwards so it looks like the guy's pulling it through the thing, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm such a moron.
I can't believe I got
the internet.
I got egged and everything.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I hate that. Sometimes it's just like, ugh. But again, the trajectory and the momentum that we're riding right now is just taking us to where everybody's going, you know what I mean? I think that's what we're living right now.
Yeah, and Gasman says reasoned and science is based in truth.
Boom.
So that's always a good thing to think of. It's just like, most of the things that we're still trying to figure out and stuff are still just like, maybe we just don't know about it because we haven't discovered something about it.
Exactly. There's scientists that will save things on the shelf so that when they find out another aspect of something else, they can go back and say, I can apply it to this thing that's on the shelf, and boom, oh my God, look what it is now.
Yeah, like a missing puzzle piece or something.
Exactly. Puzzle pieces is a great analogy, man.
And they do that. Analogy. Yeah, they do that for everything. You could just think of like,
and see, we think of a puzzle. A puzzle is a finite square that has edges, and we find those first and we fill it in. But the puzzle of life doesn't have any finite edges, man. And we're still putting it fucking together.
Yeah, still trying to figure out.
Dude, that's the craziest. The craziest thing is the amount of stuff we know versus the amount of stuff we have yet to learn is just There's two different worlds.
Because honestly, I feel like the world and everything that's based off of the humans, we should all be like so united. Like we should be able to like know each other. I should know people across the country because of how united we are, you know?
And not only know them, but have an intimate relationship with those people to the point where you can say, those are my allies.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do, but at the same time, too, I think a lot of what's happening in the media causes us to isolate ourselves, which causes us to not be the friend that person needs.
Or, yeah, same thing in their situation, in
vice
their
versa.
country. Yeah,
vice versa.
Gets a turtling effect. Everyone gets to get egged in, and it's just hard for people to want to go out.
And then you utilize this device and all these devices so much to occupy your time that you're taking away from people, the interaction between one person and another. So the more we spend time with these devices and watching news and doing all these things that are new age, and they're amazing and they're bright and they're fun to look at, the more we do that, the more we're taking away from the human experience that has taken thousands of years to develop. So me and you, the experience of me and you communicating to one another, this is a direct result of thousands and thousands of years of people communicating with one another. Me and you doing this right now.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, as we dilute this important interaction, as we dilute that with this and all these things that we surround ourselves with, the more we dilute it, the longer we do this, the more diluted it'll become, and it'll be just like the movie Idiocracy, where we're going, go away, baiting.
Yeah, right.
Like, the thing that separates us right now from the beast is communication, and we're losing that. It's hard for young people to walk up to another person and say, what's up? How's it going? How are you? How's your life? And what's your experience like? Me, as a person who's a little bit older, and I grew up in a different era, before computers, I was a kid, then computers came around, I was a teenager, and that whole computer thing that we have now didn't exist when I was a teenager. So we still had to go talk to people. We didn't have text messages. So if I wanted to go meet somebody, I'd have to go somewhere and go meet them.
A phone call.
We would remember phone numbers. Now we just have to go name, hit the thing, boom.
Yeah, I think I just barely remember my phone number. That's how bad it is.
And then nowadays, too, it's even gotten worse to where we don't even exchange phone numbers anymore. We just, we know how to get a hold of each other through this app and that app. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like me and you. I don't even have your phone number, dude.
Yeah.
But we get a hold of each other every fucking day. You know what I mean? And it, without fail.
Just being able to talk.
Beyond phone numbers. That's how we are today in 2020. We're beyond phone numbers. Everybody wants your app. Everybody wants your email. Everybody wants your other way of getting a hold of you and getting in touch with you and connecting with you. What's your Facebook? Nobody's asking you for your phone number anymore. When I was a kid, if I wanted to talk to anybody, friend, female, teacher, boss, parent, what's your phone number?
Yeah, I know.
Nowadays, it doesn't even matter, dude. We don't even need a phone number to interact. And what happens is we don't need that phone number anymore because we're losing this. We're losing
interaction.
This. And I think that's why podcasts are so big, is because the mind inherently craves this interaction. So what we have to do now is, because me and you as a person, people are not comfortable enough to go have this conversation out in public like people used to do on a park bench. Now we have to go into this device and find other people that are doing it so that we can make sure that we keep our mind sharp enough to have interactions with people out there in the world of our own.
Yeah, it's like we're justified for the things that we're saying or doing. As long as you know that there are other people around.
Yeah, exactly. And then at the same time, too, we're sitting here doing what I think the mind wants to do. The mind wants to communicate with other people. We want to, as human beings, we want to interject our ideas, and we want to feel your ideas, and we want to feel each other's brains. And that's normal because we've been doing that for so long around the fire after we went hunting.
Yeah, the storytelling.
And in the last 20 years, we now have a device that is taking over the majority of that in only 2 decades. And if you think about a decade in the amount of time that me, you, and all of our ancestors have existed on this earth, a decade is a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, very small percentage.
So we've made these leaps with this device in that droplet. And that's why we're all fucked up, is because we're going 1,000,000 miles an hour on 1938 brakes and a 1940s chassis, and we don't have any disc brakes, and we don't have any good suspension, and it feels fucking crazy because we're going 1,000,000 miles an hour on this old wobbly chassis. And that's why everybody's like, holy fuck, what's going on?
Yeah, we don't think about it so well.
Yeah. And it's just crazy. That's why we're at where we're at. And that's why we see physical manifestation of the chaos that's going on in our own brain coming out, because people are just acting and reacting to what they are feeling. There's not a person out there protesting because they feel like they want to make cookies. There's a person out there protesting because they feel like they have to be heard. Same thing with the rioters, which is completely opposite. The rioters are out there because they didn't think, I need to go make cookies. They said, I need to be heard, and I want to go throw a brick through a window.
Yeah.
Or they're frustrated enough to want to just break shit because they're so pent up.
They just have this want. They've always seen it done that they want to do it themselves. Like, I've never seen this done, or why are people doing it out there? I should do this too.
Yep.
And then it turns into that two-sided thing. Like, oh, I see somebody throw a brick in the window.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't know if I should do this or should I do this.
Yep.
That's where it always comes down to when you go out there. It's just like you kind of have this one mentality until you start seeing people doing one or the other, and then you're like, I don't know if I should or shouldn't be doing this.
Yep.
It's just a little moral value thing, or just being able to know what you're standing up for, I guess.
Yeah. And that comes back to what we were just saying a few minutes ago. You need to know yourself. You need to leave this alone long enough to understand who you are. And I hate to keep pointing to your computer because we use it for so much good. You know, we're disseminating this onto that and
Yeah.
But I'm using this as an example, people, because it's like you know what I mean? It's a good picture. It's a good example of what I'm getting at. You know, the computer, like I said, yin and yang, it's not all bad. But when we go to this too much, it is bad. Just like when we go to the bottle too much, or if we go to a joint too much, or if we go to whatever your vice is. If you go play video games too much.
Gambling,
anything, too much of anything is bad. Too much of one thing is not good. Yeah. You cannot sit there and drink 40 gallons of water in a day because you will die. But everybody will tell you, drink water. So anything in moderation.
That whole philosophy just try to keep yourself in balance.
Balance, man.
Balance of everything.
And today it's so much harder. So now it's more important for us as people and everybody out there watching, for us to try harder to find that balance.
Yeah.
We can't just go at it the same way we did 5 years ago even. Because 5 years ago we were in such a different world. Last December we were in a different world, folks. So now we have to try even harder. If you thought you knew how to find center in December, double that.
Yeah.
Because right now you have to try hard to find center. I made some art recently, and on the left side of it, it said, find center. Because that's been big on my brain right now.
Dope.
There's a lot of people who do not know where their center is. And they can't, when things are going crazy and they're freaking... their spectrometer is going, they don't know where baseline is because they've never sat there and figured that out, you know, because we're always going like this, especially people who are younger than I am, you know, people who are in your age group and younger, people who are in their 20s. Oh my God, I feel so bad for them because their thing has always been hitting red light.
They don't know what the spectrum is.
They don't know what the spectrum is because they've always been to this far side of it. You know, they don't realize that on this other side, there's so much just peace and calm and quiet. Without Facebook and MySpace and Instagram and everything else.
Did he just say MySpace?
I'm saying MySpace because back then that's what it was.
Yeah.
MySpace dominated our time. Then Facebook did. Now Instagram and all the rest of them, TikTok and Snapchat. They've absorbed so much of our time.
They know how to manipulate it and stuff.
Dude, it's bad. It's bad. What's happening over here?
Gas Mask said,
I'm liking Gas Mask. You're the man, dude.
bunch of because our leaders and cultures don't want us to be awake to the consumer matrix.
Boom.
A bunch of
Dude, Gas Mask.
Yeah.
The consumer matrix. How better to describe what I'm talking about, dude?
Right. Everything
the
that happened.
consumer matrix is exactly what we're getting fucking webbed up in. We're just so fucking absorbed in it, and we're sitting there with this thing in the back of our head. But it's not. It's in our pocket, and we're constantly... The interaction between this and this is where this is...
Coming in.
Yeah. It's fucking wild. Gas Mask is so on point.
It's coming close.
Fire.
Dude.
Fire, Gas Mask. You're killing it tonight, brother.
I love it. He's like, I play video games, get high, and watch this show all the time.
You're the man, dude. I love this guy.
And then nature is the center. You already basically said that, but...
No, dude, it is. You know what happens when I go out to the forest? There's a forest out here that we go to, and I go there often. And it's so weird because my phone doesn't work out there, so I leave it in the truck.
Oh.
It's like, why have it?
Yeah, there's no need. Yeah, why?
I already know the path I'm going down, and I'm going to come back. And then I get out in the middle of nowhere where there's no cell towers and all this extra noise. And it's weird because you hear birds chirping.
Yeah.
And you're like, how in the fuck is the world going to shit? This is not the apocalypse. How is it going to shit if I'm standing here in utter beauty listening to birds sing?
Right. Even if you're in the nighttime, dude, light pollution, if you're out in the mountains and you go and see the stars, dude, it's totally different experience than just watching it like here right now. You go outside, it's like, oh, I see some stuff, but living at my grandpa's house, I so appreciate it so much more. Like, oh my God.
And that's what I'm talking about. There will be people who are born, live, and die that will never see what that experience that you've seen.
Yeah.
And it's amazing if you do not feel insignificant after you look at a starry night in the middle of fucking nowhere. If you don't feel insignificant, it's because you're too ignorant and you're too wrapped up in everything else. Because what's supposed to happen is when you look up to 1,000,000 stars all at once in your field of view, you're supposed to feel insignificant.
Yeah.
And that is supposed to ground and humble you so that you're on the other end of the spectrum that we just talked about.
Yeah.
You can feel both ends.
Understand what's going on.
There's nothing here that isn't powered by two ends. There's a positive going in and a negative. This wire does not have one thing coming into it.
Yeah.
It's a positive and a negative. So we need to figure that out in our own lives.
Aspect, right?
Dude, if you're going to be in cyberspace and on Instagram this many hours a day, it's probably a good idea to go out into
Spend some
nature,
time out there.
maybe even half that time. You know, and that's a lot.
What's up, Big Thunder? Xavier in the chat. Thank
What's
you,
up,
buddy.
Thunder?
Thank you. Chilling here, hanging out with Josh. We got Josh in the studio.
What's up, Thunder?
We're just going deep, just talking about all kinds of shit, man.
You know,
there's so much out there that just is so mysterious and so wonderful to come out.
The one question we started this whole thing off with was, what's going on, man? It's crazy out there.
Yeah, dude.
That's what we started off with, and we don't need any fodder. We can just talk about the exact right now. You know, and that is interesting enough within itself. The amazing stuff that's going on this second is far more interesting than 10 minutes ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago.
Yeah, because it's progression.
You can't nowadays. If I catch a podcast, I've been catching up on one of our favorites. They're doing the quarantines, right?
Oh yeah, Kill Tony.
Kill Toes is doing the quarantine, so it's weird to hear episodes because I'm just jamming them all into this week. So what I did is the last few days I've listened to like the quarantine 1, 2, 3 or something like that, right? Maybe in the fourth one. And it's weird to listen to them talk back in March, in April. Just the differences in their tone, the differences in their opinion on what's going on can compared to right now, 2 weeks later, 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later, whatever it is fucking bonkers to think that it's so different.
Yeah. Even people's
in the middle of April.
Yeah, mentality and stuff about what's going on is so different. They're like, oh, I was so worried and scared, and now they're like, it's not too bad. And now there's people that just don't give a fuck.
Yep. There's people who we've already seen. It's all over the news. Again, it's all over the news. It's all over Instagram. It's all over Facebook. All these people who don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? They're out there riding and bumping shoulders, and who gives a shit? I mean, I went out and ate for the first time in fucking 100 days.
A restaurant.
And it's something I took for granted for so long. But a restaurant, man, it's so odd to have food that was, made by somebody else who does that for a living.
Yeah.
Served to you table side.
Yeah, not compared to like fast food or anything.
No,
a franchise or like, a small mom and pop shop where they're just like, we finally get to reopen.
Yes.
We finally get to start selling our stuff from here again.
We have a small business. My wife is a hairdresser. She has her own hair cutting little studio. It's probably twice the size of this, and that's it. It's her little business. And we've worked hard for a decade or more just to put it together to where it is right now.
Oh, okay.
From school to graduation to experience to just equipment alone, building clientele base, all this stuff. And boom, here comes Corona, and we're barely getting back. Today was the first day that our business was able to open up again, and it wasn't deemed illegal. And that was weird, to work just as hard as we're always told, if you work this hard, you can do this. And then to do that, and then to turn around and have of no fruition of your own that ripped out from underneath you and not know if that's ever going to come back after working this fucking hard is crazy.
Yeah.
And today, ironically, was the day we were able to go back and open that business for the first time.
Get some stuff done.
It's fucking awful. It's awful, man.
Sometimes it's some crazy shit.
Anything interesting?
Chilling. Got a few viewers. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are awesome. We're just here chilling, having a bunch of different conversations. So if you guys want to chill it or chime in, go ahead and just throw your 2 cents in.
Throw it in. The comments. The other time we were sitting here, some girl said, "What about the avocados?" Oh no, it was a guy. Alex was a guy. Remember Alex last time?
I think so.
What about the avocados? And there's a whole story behind avocados.
I don't like avocados.
That is not, dude. Avocados are so good, but you'll never eat an avocado. They say that isn't kind of like tied to corruption somehow. So, anyway.
Xavier said, my girlfriend's sister asked, what's your business called for the hair salon?
Oh, Nadia's on the corner of San Pedro and Montgomery. Nadia's Salon. Go check them out. There's a bunch of stylists there. There's a bunch of very experienced hairdressers. There's a bunch of... It's a full-service, high-class salon. So you got your full-service nails. You got your full-service pedicures, mani-pedis.
Yeah.
They have a line of baths. Right now they're doing the social distancing, so the scheduling is based on the availability of spots, so you'll never be smashed against somebody else right now, especially because of the fact that nobody wants to be. Everybody's signed in temperatures. There's all kinds of protocol right now, and the cleaning that has to go in between every customer was to the umpth degree before, and now it's even worse. Nadia's, San Pedro, Montgomery, mani-pedis, nails, hair, waxing, and
get your appointments in now.
The crazy thing is we were watching, once the governor announced that they could open, the appointment book went like that, because everybody's looking like dog shit right now. All the girls have fucking fangs coming off of their freaking eyebrows.
Fangs.
Dude, all the girls, you know what I mean? They're just growing beards, and they haven't been waxed in forever, and their nails look atrocious, and their
bunch of split ends.
Yeah, the colors coming out, like their roots are showing. Every girl's roots are showing, and I feel bad for all these girls because it takes a lot of work, and that's why I said our business involves keeping people looking beautiful. And we were deemed illegal. Now we're not. Apparently we're not illegal anymore. and we're allowed to go back to business. So go get your nails done. It doesn't even matter if you go to my business. Go support your local esthetician. Go support your local manicurist. So go support your local hairstylist. Go get a haircut, dude. Go get a haircut.
You see what he said? He said my hair's too long, guys. Go get a fucking haircut, everybody.
This guy needs a fucking haircut.
Oh,
I
man.
need a haircut. I need a haircut.
It's been one of those times.
But you know what? I'm just kind of saying it's a very odd situation. We're all living in a very odd time, and that's why we don't need any subject other than right now.
Yeah.
We're like Jerry Seinfeld, dude. This is about nothing. Our show right now is about nothing, but we're talking about all of it.
Everything.
Everything all at the same time. And it's freaking
I've
bonkers.
always loved that concept too. It's like it's never about anything.
No.
But it is about everything because you never know what it's about.
No. And that's the craziness of this world. And I give you kudos every time I see shit that's happening in the world. I'm thinking, this is good podcast fodder. This is good podcast fodder. Because right now, like I said, people are craving this interaction more than any other time because they can't have the interaction with themselves. And that's it's good for us to have these interactions with others.
Dope, yep. That's so true. Xavier's like, I've never seen you without your hat, bro. Yeah, I guess I never take it off.
I made it happen, guys. Don't forget it.
Gabe, thank you for joining, man.
What's up, dude?
He says, I like your shirt. Where did you get it? I think he's talking about you. He's a baseball fan. Gabe's a baseball fan.
Spring training, man. I'm wearing...
Maybe mine too. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure he's talking about you.
I'm wearing this in kind of like a solidarity for my my little league team. I have a little league team. I'm not even a Pirates fan, but they're the Pirates. So my little league team is the Pirates, and I hope and pray that soon enough we can get back to playing baseball because I'm a baseball coach, guys.
There you go.
There you go. So I train little kids that are coming out of T-ball to go into baseball. So I'm the guy in between. I'm that year where they're like, I finally get to hit a ball that's being thrown at me. So I wear this in solidarity for my baseball team, and I'm a huge baseball fan, and I have a bunch of different teams, and I just enjoy the spring training. This year, this design, spring training comes out with a different design every year. Nike comes out with a different design every year for spring training, and they're all different. But this one has really touched me. So I got the Pirates for my little league team. I got the Dodgers for my grandpa. I got the Giants and the A's for my own fandom from where I came from, and then I have Colorado Rockies for the Albuquerque farm team and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's kind of how I am. But yeah, I enjoy these shirts too because they're, you know what I mean, they represent my favorite pastime.
Yeah, the shit you do, shit you like to do,
and I wear it right now to remind people of better times because playing baseball was better times for all of us, and as soon as it comes back and as soon as sports come back, it's going to be a better time, and I think it's something we can all look forward to, and that's why I kind of wear these in solidarity for my baseball and for the American spirit, you know.
Right on. Long live baseball, Gabe says.
That's what's up, Gabe. Baseball is very underrated. It's very misunderstood too. Yeah. Thank you, Gabe, for encouraging me to continue to talk about baseball because get this, buddy.
Let's talk.
Dude, baseball is a freaking chess game. Like, if you've seen two guys in the park in Manhattan hovering over a chessboard and trying to figure out how to dominate the other one, that's what I see every time I watch a baseball game. Because there's two managers and they are battling this chessboard. And this chessboard has players on it, and the players have different abilities, different strengths, and those strengths and abilities change depending on who the person that is opposite of them, their experience and their strengths.
Yeah, who they go against.
Oh my God. Dude, baseball is like the most mathematical game there ever was, and people don't understand it. People don't understand the time that goes into practicing and becoming as good as those guys are. The guys who are playing Major League Baseball right now have all spent 20 years of their lives getting good at one thing. And they're at the top, upper echelon of the ability in their field, in what they do in the world. And that's why they're baseball players. So when you look at a baseball player, even if he's a minor league guy who has never played majors, he's put in so much work to get to where he is, to be one piece of the chessboard.
Yeah.
And just to be a piece on that chessboard is an honor for a lot of these guys. And in America, we value baseball. We do. But in other countries where they're producing more baseball players than America, like the Dominican Republic, it's a fucking religion. There is guys who go out to the street corner and get into damn near fist fights, debating who's better at X, Y, or Z when it comes to baseball. And they know all the stats, and they know all the people, and they know who's coming, and they know who's leaving, and it gets heated. There's videos online of Dominican men debating baseball on the street corner, and it's damn near violent.
Dang, that's so crazy.
Baseball is intense, dude.
Gabe says the documentary by Ken Burns on baseball made me tear up. Also, baseball helped change segregation.
Dude, if you think about our current situation...
Yeah, that's true, man. Heck yeah.
It's a good point, Gabe, because our current situation, we're looking at taking another step up the ladder of being more... or being less racist, I should say.
Yeah.
We're taking these stair steps. And each time we lift our leg to go the next step, it's painful. And I think baseball was one of those steps on that rung. It definitely was, because without those forefathers of Negro baseball and all that stuff, dude, you know, look at what we wouldn't have. You know, baseball isn't a white sport anymore. It's definitely, I'm not going to say it's one racist sport anymore, but it was at one point one racist sport. It was a white person game.
Yeah, very dominant.
It was just white people. And I'm not even trying to be racist or anything. It was just white people. Now it is a people's game. And if you look at the time frame it took to become from this a white person's game and to transform into this, what we have today, we have to understand that process was very painful, and it took a lot, and it took lives, and it took everything else. So whenever we take that and we superimpose it onto what's going on right now, we got to understand this is what's got to happen. A lot of the stuff that we're seeing, all the pain and all the suffering, we have to see it so that people can get a better understanding of how bad it is so that we can change.
Yeah.
Just like baseball brought us through some of the segregation and some of the Jim Crow laws and got us away from a lot of that stuff, we're still not out of the woods. But baseball was a big deal. There was a big deal. That Ken Burns documentary, the reason he teared up is because he's human. And when you watch that documentary, you'll see some human fucking shit, dude. And baseball is just an ancillary part of that documentary when it comes down to that stuff. Baseball. Baseball is epic.
Food Stamp, what's up? Muse, he just said Muse. Thank you for joining, man.
Thanks, Food Stamp.
That's true.
Gabe, I really appreciate you bringing up baseball. It's very intelligent of you, because right now,
at this time,
especially in society today, we have so many other places to put our attention, or to grab our attention, that we don't give America's pastime enough of a chance.
Yeah.
And people say baseball is dying, and I ask them, what's dying that's worth $6 billion a year? Nothing. Baseball is worth $6 billion. That's their revenue.
Yeah.
Baseball brings in $6 billion. That's $500 million every month. $500 million every month. $6 billion at the end of the year. Right?
Yeah.
That's some correct math, right? If I'm not wrong. $500 million times 12, $500 million times 12 is 6, right?
Yeah.
Boom. $500 million a month it brings in. So you're going to tell me that baseball is dead? I say you're ignorant to the facts and you don't know what's going on, buddy, because baseball's so big, it's in so many countries, and it's so people are so involved in it, and there's so many lives dedicated just to that you'd be fucking blown away on how much baseball shapes your life and mine. And look at NFL. Look at the NFL, even worse.
Yeah, that especially Americans, like, oh my God, that's really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, Americans love war, and that's why we love football.
And that's what kind of blows me away too, is like there's been so many studies and stuff that shows how bad actually football is for you, but yet they still go and parade and love it.
You know, that and that's one of the things that I love about baseball is it's dangerous, but you're not going to kill yourself because you have to go out there on the front line and defend your quarterback from somebody else. Baseball is so cerebral, and I'm not trying to put down football at all. Baseball is so cerebral that you'd be fucking blown away on how intricate this shit is.
Yeah, the same thing with like basketball. I don't know.
Oh, dude.
It's a fascination of the sport. Like any of those sports really have jiu-jitsu. Everything, dude. So many, any form of martial arts.
And jiu-jitsu and basketball are both old, just like baseball.
Yeah.
The old. You know, I posted the other day, I posted a picture from 1900s, and it was of the Indian championship Indian team, a female championship Indian team from 1900s, and my great grandmother was the mascot for that team.
Oh yeah, I did see that picture.
Yeah, and there's Native American girls from 1900 playing basketball competitively.
Yeah, Native American girls.
That is a trip. In 1900, we were making sure we had these hoops, and I've refurbished basketball courts because that's what I do for my 9 to 5 is wood floors.
Yeah.
So basketball courts is one of my specialties. I went down to Silver City and we worked on a basketball court that was from like 1910, and it was a basketball court that you could. There was the lines and everything. It was like almost hurt my feelings to sand off what was there because you can tell the lines were hand painted freehand.
Oh shit!
And it was crazy because it wasn't like our traditional keys. It was like a larger circle with these little sticks. It was very strange, and it was a piece of history, you know. And basketball, sports, baseball, football, all these sports, they come from the past because they were there before all this rest of that shit that we're so involved in nowadays. And I think a lot of what ails society today is the lack of kids going into sports, finding camaraderie in a team, and accepting that you're not the biggest part of something, accepting that you're a puzzle piece. Just like when you look at the fucking stars when you're out in Penasco, you realize you're not the pinnacle. You are merely a puzzle piece, and I think a lot of us need to be more humble when we think about ourselves, and we need to realize we're not the top of the spear. We're merely a piece of this organic puzzle that we live in.
Yeah. Just a piece, guys.
Just a piece, man. We're not as important as we think, and that should also bring you some solace in the fact that your problem that you might have today, that is the worst thing in the world, it's gonna pass, guys.
Yeah, even if it feels like it's been a long time, 6 months is nothing compared to 5 years.
Nothing compared, and that 6 months could ruin 30 years of your life if you decide to take your life 30 years before you were going to actually die.
That's so true, man.
6 months can alter your entire life. 6 months. Look at the last 6 months that we've lived in.
Yeah, dude.
It has literally done exactly what we just said. It has altered our lives forever.
Now we'll always have this weird, just different stuff that we do.
Well, it'll just always change the world.
Yeah.
The world is forever changed. It's never going back to where it was before. January 2020
is not the same.
It will never be that again. Just like we can say we will never be before the atomic bomb was made. We can never go back to that point.
Yeah.
Just like that, we can never go back to before coronavirus. And it's weird that it's that significant. And I don't want to downplay it, but I don't think it was that significant. I just think that the information that we have today is so jammed down our ass that's why it's so significant in everybody's eyes.
Yeah, it just got just over proportionalized to what happened.
I think so, man. It was freaking bonkers. What do they say?
Gabe just said, glad you feel that way. Glad you like the topic. Anyways, You're well-spoken, Josh.
Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate
very deep about the issue and everything. And he said, good guest.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that, Gabe. I try. And then, I every time I come in here, too, I try not to be fake. And I think that's where all this depth comes from, is because this is where I really think, man, I'm not trying to come over here and give you some glossy version of what my mind is doing. I'm just telling you exactly how I feel. And this is what goes through my head all the time. And I try to be extra articulate. I've tried to make a significant point to be extra articulate, because that articulation, you guys, will get you further than knowledge itself.
Yeah.
If you can articulate a dumb idea and you can't articulate a fucking amazing idea, how are you going to get any ideas through? You know what I mean? If you can articulate even the slightest kind of half-ass idea, but you can articulate it, you can get the ball moving in the correct direction, probably.
Yeah.
But articulation is huge. One of the reasons I've always enjoyed listening to people talk, and I started doing it before podcasts, I started listening to AM radio. You know why I started doing that? Is because people there are constantly having conversations where they're trying to express an idea and an opinion.
Or inform you in some way.
Exactly. Something. And they don't have all this time, so they have to be very articulate with it. So since I was young, I've always been listening to people talk for this very reason, so that when it comes to the point where I have to disseminate my information that I am trying to get across, I don't come over here and say, oh, bro, fucking shit, man, it's fucking crazy, bro, fucking this and just shit and blah blah. I'm making a constant effort to consciously not do that. I make sure to be articulate as possible, because it is important to some of these guys who are listening to us right now. They might take some of this information that we give them and use it as a tool in their daily lives to find that center that we were talking about, something. Man. And I can only hope, you know what I mean? And if that's the least positive thing that comes out of my articulation, then fucking sweet, man. I'm glad I did that.
You got something across.
And I appreciate it too, because I don't often hear that. I don't often hear that from people, because Gabe has the pleasure of sitting here and listening to us talk, but we don't often give people that pleasure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I appreciate that, Gabe. I appreciate you sitting here and listening to us, because we don't give people that time. And so we look at people and we underestimate them, and we don't think that they have that in them.
That's true.
And I appreciate that, Gabe. I really do.
Hell yeah,
I try, man.
That's so sick.
And that's awesome. Thanks for saying that I'm a good guest, dude. That means the world to me. That's really cool to hear. That's really cool to hear.
Fuck yeah. Anyways, Josh, we've been here for an hour and 40 minutes.
That's wild. I always love that.
Just talking. That's all we do is just chill and talk, man.
No, I love that, man. And then, we don't even have very much conversation pre-show on purpose.
Yeah, on just for that, because I don't want to have to get everything situated of what's going on. I could have been out there and be like, oh, that's good that you got your business going.
No. We didn't have any. We sit here and we're like awkwardly quiet before the podcast. Just FYI.
Dope.
But that was dope. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for always supporting my little brother here from another mother, Angelito from the hood. Don't get it twisted.
Joe, bro, let them know where they can find you. Where can they find you? Social media sites, all that good stuff.
So you can find me on my Flores of Burque, BURQUE, Flores of BURQUE, and that's me. That's my Instagram page, and that's the best representation of me. My brother over here, he made me start a Facebook page, so you can find me at Joshua Rochelle or FOB Films. FOB Films is a place that I put out all my kind of film work that I do that we didn't really talk about, because we've already talked about that too much, but I do a lot of filming and a lot of photography, and I put it out on Flores of Burque on Instagram, FOB Films on Facebook, Josh Rochelle on Facebook. My brother pimping it. Thanks, bro.
You guys are awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to follow me on all social media sites. MuseMe TV, everywhere you can find it. We'll have more coming up this week, so make sure to subscribe, follow, like, all that good stuff. Thank you guys again. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Josh, thank you for coming in, man.
Thanks, buddy. Later, guys.